Ghost University. Today we're going to talk about The Shining, Danny and his imaginary friend. We're going to talk a little bit about the number 42, but mainly about Danny's imaginary friend. And so Danny has an imaginary friend. I believe his imaginary friend is a fallen angel spirit that will talk to him and communicate with him and tells him things that he allegedly needs to know. But sometimes the spirit can't tell him things. And it's kind of awkward because the spirit will abandon him at the last moment when he needs the spirit the most. And we'll also see how a demon spirit also talks to Mr. Hallorann. And Mr. Hallorann says he's been able to do this thing for all of his life. And he never ever met anybody else who could shine besides his grandmother until he met Danny. He said he thought he was the only one who could do it. I guess he say, him and his grandmother were the only two that could do it. But let's start off the video with the scene of Danny and his mom sitting at the table before they hear from Jack telling them that that Jack has gotten a job at the Overlook Hotel.
Mom?
Yeah?
Do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, there's hardly anybody to play with around here.
Yeah, I know. It always takes a little time to make new friends.
Yeah, I guess so.
What about Tony? He's looking forward to the hotel, I bet.
It's a torch.
Oh, come on, Tony. Don't be silly.
I don't want to call them Mrs. Torrance.
Well, how come you don't want to go?
I just don't.
Well, let's just wait and see. We're all going to have a real good time.
Couple things to add on here. Why is it that the spirit doesn't want to go, as in Danny's friend Tony, doesn't want to go to the Overlook? Is it that he's attached to Danny, and if Danny dies, now he has to go find someone else? And it might take him a while to find a person capable of the spirit being able to enter into. The second thing is, Danny is a medium because the spirit can talk through him. And that's what mediums are used for. They're used for spirit communication, so they can talk to others through the human being. And lastly, Danny has told his parents a little bit about Tony, but they don't know Tony's origin or anything like that. They just believe he's Danny's imaginary friend. Perhaps the parent should investigate the matter a little more thoroughly to see exactly what Danny means when he speaks of this imaginary friend. Not saying that every time your child has an imaginary friend that it's a demon, but it definitely needs to be looked into. At least a little bit. Ask some questions. Stanley Kubrick had said that words are a terrible straitjacket. So if that's the case, what exactly does the dialogue or script mean in the movie compared to the background or everything else you see? Because he's really telling you that he can't communicate everything directly to you with the words that people say. Hey, if that's the case, he may as well just write it down, and that could be in the script. But he was so intricate and nuanced about movies that he made that you have to analyze more than just what's being said to you. So here what we have is Danny's in the bathroom, and there's a sign. And the sign on the door that I'm talking about isn't really a sign. It's a sticker of Dopey from the Seven Dwarfs. And after the scene, when the mom and the therapist, or the doctor slash therapist, leave out of the room from examining Danny because he hit his head, probably from the fear he had from the vision that Tony gave him. He fell out and knocked himself out for a second, bumped his head, and woke up later on in his bed. So, when they're walking out, Dopey is no longer on the door of Danny's room. So, Danny is no longer a dope, meaning he's smarter about something than he once was. And you could look at it as just an accident, but I don't believe Kubrick made accidents in his movies because of the term, words are a terrible straitjacket. So examine more than just the words. Like right here is the first time we'll see the number 42 on Danny's shirt. And if you look at the color scheme of the bathroom, it's the same color scheme for the bathroom that's in room 237. But later on, we'll talk more about 42 and 237 and everything else. But for now, we can go back to Danny talking to Tony. And this part isn't included in the clip, but right before this scene, while they're zooming in on Danny in the bathroom, standing on that little stool right there, he asks Tony. He says, "Hey Tony, do you think Dad's gonna get the job?" And Tony's reply, the spirit's reply, is he already got the job. In fact, he's gonna be calling Wendy, as in Danny's mom, and Jack's wife, in just a minute to tell her that he got the job. Which is kind of weird because that means that spirit can see everywhere. And familiar spirits are something in the Bible that are fallen angels. And those fallen angels have been here for forever. And they know everything. They can see everywhere. And even if they don't know everything, then they can communicate with each other because they're all over the place. And they see things. And they remember things from a long time ago. From a long time ago. And they can tell you about those things. So the spirit, as in Tony, is going to also show Danny why he doesn't want to go to the Overlook Hotel. Because the Overlook has had a bloody history, and the spirit is aware of it. And that's why I said, does he not want to go there in case Danny doesn't make it? And then Danny dies, and now the spirit has to go find somebody else to attach itself to.
Tony, why don't you want to go to the hotel? I don't know. You do too know. Now come on, tell me. I don't want to. Please. No. Tony, tell me.
Demons or fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, spirits have proven to be mischievous. And they also have been proven to be liars. Notice how at first the spirit told him he didn't know why he didn't want to go. That's a lie. Because then he turned right around and said, or he didn't say, but he showed him that he didn't want to go because the Overlook has some terrible things going on at it. Now imagine if he just would have let Danny go in there without Danny having any type of knowledge about what was going on there. Again, the spirit would be a liar. In scripture, you're supposed to test the spirits to see where they came from. You know, a spirit from the Lord would tell you straight up why it doesn't want to go, or why you shouldn't go. No, why not why it doesn't want to go, but why you shouldn't go there.
Do you know how I knew your name was Doc? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I can remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother and I could hold conversations entirely without ever opening our mouths. She called it shining.
Now we understand the meaning of the term and the name of the movie, Shining. The Shining is the ability to communicate through telepathy. And so obviously, both Hallorann and his grandmother had spirits around them that spoke to them and put each other's thoughts in their minds. Because without those spirits assisting them, they never would have been able to do that. And that's why he's going to tell him later, is there somebody who tells you stuff? And that person who tells Danny stuff is Tony, which means without spirits telling you this stuff, there's no way for you to have the ability to let others know your thoughts without opening your mouth and have a whole conversation through telepathy without a demon spirit doing it, which means it's not really telepathy, it's demonic communication. Let's just keep it real.
And for a long time, I thought it was just the two of us that had to shine to us. Just like you probably thought you was the only one. But there are other folks, though mostly they don't know it or don't believe it. How long have you been able to do it? Why don't you want to talk about it?
I'm not supposed to.
Who says you ain't supposed to?
Tony.
Who's Tony?
Tony is a little boy that loves my mouth.
Is Tony the one that tells you things?
Yes.
How does he tell you things?
It's like I go to sleep and he shows me things. But when I wake up, I can't remember everything.
Does your mom and dad know about Tony?
Yes.
Do they know he tells you things?
No, Tony told me never to tell him.
Has Tony ever told you anything about this place? About the Overlook Hotel?
I don't know.
Now think real hard, Doc. Think.
Maybe he showed me something.
Try to think of what it was.
Mr. Hallorann, are you scared of this place?
No. Scared of nothing here. It's just that, some places are like people. Some shine and some don't. I guess you could say the Overlook Hotel here has something about it that's like shining.
Is there something bad here?
Well, Doc, when something happens, it can leave a trace of itself behind. Say, like, if someone burns toast. Well, maybe things that happen leave other kind of traces behind. Not things that anyone can notice, but things that people who shine can see.
This theory about something leaving traces of itself behind isn't biblical. And this is what I mean. If you die and something horrible happens to you, you're never going to haunt the earth. That's not biblical. Okay? But if you let people tell it who don't have the knowledge of the Lord give you information, they're going to tell you that when people die, maybe they died so tragically that they have to, live on the planet until things get better for them. Whatever that means. Until, they can fix their karma or someone fixes what happens to them and then they can be released to go off and go do whatever the hell else they're supposed to be out here doing. But biblically, once you die, you're asleep until Christ makes his return. Point blank, period. So there's no hauntings. Hauntings are caused by demonic spirits, as we can plainly see by what's happening at the Overlook. If you watch what's happening at the Overlook, it happens through demonic things messing with people, making themselves appear to you, giving you drinks, talking to you right in front of your face. There's a whole scene in the movie where there's just a whole big party going on in the gold room. There are many people in there, but those people aren't real. They're spirits of people that died at the Overlook and or died on the grounds of the Overlook. That's who those people are. Those are all the people who died in some sort of horrific manner and got stuck on the grounds of the Overlook. That's who those people are.
Just like they can see things that haven't happened yet. Well, sometimes they can see things that happened a long time ago. I think a lot of things happened right here in this particular hotel over the years. And not all of them was good.
What about room 237?
Room 237?
You're scared of room 237, ain't you?
No, I ain't.
Mr. Hallorann, what is in room 237?
Nothing. There ain't nothing in room 237. But you ain't got no business going in there anyway. So stay out. You understand? Stay out.
Eventually, Mr. Hallorann is contacted by Danny, I believe. And if not Danny, then Tony contacted Mr. Hallorann through his spirit, through the spirit that follows around Mr. Hallorann, and told him that, hey, you might want to go check on the people at the Overlook. Because he's in his bed and his eyes are all open and he's shaking. And you can see Danny shaking at the same time, right? In a totally different location. And so Mr. Hallorann gets up out of his bed, gets a plane, and he takes his plane to the Overlook. Well, outside of the Overlook, he goes all the way up the mountain and everything, and there's all types of snow on the ground. One of the things Mr. Hallorann sees is he sees a car that's flipped over, and it's the same color car that's in the beginning of Stephen King's Shining. All right? And they say King was mad about that because he understood that Kubrick was sending a signal that he kind of turned his whole movie upside down. But anyway, Mr. Hallorann gets there, and he's walking down the hallway, and for all the shining and for all the stuff that the Spirit told him and the Spirit told Danny, Mr. Hallorann is walking down the hallway, and then Jack jumps out from behind a pillar, and he kills Mr. Hallorann. But why didn't the Spirit notify Danny to tell Mr. Hallorann Or why didn't Tony tell Mr. Hallorann, or the spirit that follows around Mr. Hallorann, tell him that Jack is right down the hallway? Don't go down there, Mr. Hallorann. Don't do it. You're getting ready to die. And that's because the spirit ultimately doesn't have your back. All right? It doesn't have your back. If you have spirits telling you things, test the spirit and see whether it came from the devil or whether it came from God, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. That needs to be known, because at the last minute, they will turn their back on you. Anyway, I may do some more of The Shining at some point, but my next video upload will actually be about Superman. We're going to talk about Superman. That's right, the comic book character, and what he really means to society. All right? See you next video. Ghost University. Like, comment, subscribe.